Hello, friends. I am going to attempt to do the mid-year freakout tag. I know that this is really late. It's July 9th as I'm filming this. But I was on vacation and having a great time, so I didn't get to do it. But I first heard of this tag from Kel Sweetie. I will link her down below. She is an awesome book reviewer. I have told her before that she can even make me want to read the books that she didn't like, just to see what they're all about. So check her out when you get the chance. I copied down the questions as I watched her video, so hopefully I have them all right. I've got my little cheat sheet here, and I've got my reading journal out so I can kind of look in there for answers that I need. I will also be putting the book covers here so that you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see. The first question is the best book so far. So far, I have to say East of Eden is my favorite book. I have owned that book for probably my entire life. I think it was passed down to me from somebody else. And I never read it until this year. And it was such a beautiful look at a family and generations and generational trauma and how we carry with us other people's sins, and what we do with that ultimately makes us the person that we are. So it's about a family that two brothers who grow up and grow apart and grow ultimately together again, and the people that touch their lives and what wisdom they gain from different cultures and different influences. And it's about what we carry with us into the next generations, what knowledge, what biases, what do we feel we need to do with our lives comes from the generation before. So it was a really beautiful book, and I'm glad that I finally read it. And I have I got my little Timshel tattoo, which is probably backwards for you, but that's a whole part of the book. If you've read it, you know about it. It's kind of hard to explain. Well, it would take me a long time to explain. But yeah, so best book so far, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I have read John Steinbeck before as a teenager in high school, but now I think is my time to read him and understand him at the age that I am. So, my favorite new release. I think the only new release I read this year, that's not true, I read a few. I thought I only read one. I'm going to go with my favorite new release was Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer. I was really surprised by that book. I picked it up because it had a pink cover. Like, I really had no idea what it was going to be about. I honestly didn't even know that the whole tradwife movement was a thing until I got this book and realized, and then like all the other books started coming out around it. But I really had a good time with that book. I thought it was such a fun story and such a fun ending, and the whole thing was just great. I definitely recommend it. I gave it 4 stars here in my book, but it's definitely a 5-star for me. I really loved it. All right, number 3, most anticipated for the second half of 2026. I think I'm going to cheat a little because the book that I'm going to talk about has already been released, but it was released in June. So technically that's the second half of the year. And that's Bone of My Bone by Johanna Van Veen. Wow, it took me a second to remember that. But it is about a nun, and she has to reunite the bones of a saint in order to get one wish. That's as much as I know about it. Going in, I love religious horror. I love religious, pretty much anything, any genre of book, I will read it if it's religious. I'm not super religious myself, but I mean, I guess I am in a way, but I I am very, very interested in the rites and the beliefs, especially because I grew up Catholic, so especially of Catholicism, it's very interesting to me. The way that people of great faith handle themselves is why I thought The Exorcist was a beautiful book, but we're going far away. So anyway, um, I have not read it yet. I'm very excited to get to it this year. I may even get to it this month. We'll see how I feel. But yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Biggest disappointment. I think I would have to say Wuthering Heights. I never read that book until this year. I didn't have to read it in high school. I can kind of see a theme going on of books that I have owned forever and never read. But I remember it being part of some English classes, not anyone that I was in. And I read it, and it's so awful. I gave it 2 stars, and 2 stars for me just means I finished it. Um, it was about rich people being shitty to each other, and that's pretty much it. Spoiled brats being crappy human beings. So if you like that kind of thing, and you think that the Moors are so romantic that you need to read it, please, by all means. It's a classic. I don't know why. It's awful. That was my biggest disappointment this year. DNFs. Now I have a page for that in my reading journal. So I DNF'd Going Bovine by Libba Bray. And I was really upset by that because I really loved the Diviner series, the whole series. I read all of them, and I think I even read them in succession, which I never do. I really liked the way those were paced. They were YA, but they were still interesting to an adult, and I liked the story. The Going Bovine, though, just could not get into the writing style to begin with. I don't know if she tried to do something different, but it just did not gel with me. I could not get into it, and I think I DNF'd it before I finished the first chapter. And then 2 others. One I finished later on. It was called Siren's Mark. I don't remember the author, but it was a romance about a supernatural romance, I guess it would be called, because the love interest is a siren. So I DNF'd it. It was one of my book group's picks, but then I picked it back up because for some reason I just wanted to know what it was, and I think I don't know what I ended up giving it star wise, but it was a fun little read. Like, you just have to go in expecting to not expect anything, if that makes sense. And then I'm pretty sure that 90% of the people who ever watch this video will hate me, but I DNF Dungeon Crawler Carl. I say that with a caveat. I did not like the actual book. I did not like the staccato feeling of the writing. It was just very, and I didn't like it. I guess if that makes sense. So I actually downloaded the audio because I think it would be fun to listen to with my 10-year-old. And we've done chapter 1, and it was much better on audio. And I think that we're going to do the rest of the chapters as we drive this summer. So DNF to DCC with a caveat. Biggest surprise read. So many. Oh my gosh. My biggest surprise read, I want to say, I mean, I could say both of the books or two of the books that I talked about already, but I will say for this, The Starving Saints. I picked this up again, religious horror. I was so into it already, but then I ended up loving it. I got it from my library, and then I bought a copy. I bought a used copy just so I could have it on my shelves, but I definitely want to read it again. It was such a fun ride. It was just such an engaging read, and I loved the characters quite a bit. I liked their relationship, which was kind of tortured, so I don't know what that says about me, but you know. The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. My favorite new author, that's going to go to Mona Awad. I read Bunny and then immediately went and borrowed every book of hers from their library. I have since given Bunny away to make other people read it. I enjoyed every book she wrote, some more than others, definitely, but except for We Love You, Bunny. That was terrible. But I really enjoyed all of her stories. I read Rouge, I read All's Well, I read We Love You, Bunny, and I think that's it. I think that's everything. Oh no, she has one book that I cannot find, and that's 13 Ways of Talking to a Fat Girl or something close to that. And as you can see, I'd be interested in reading that. Books that have made me cry. The book that made me cry the most and is also a candidate for biggest surprise is Heart the Lover. I had no idea what this was about going in, and it was a book club, one of my in-person book club reads. And by the end of that book, I was sobbing so hard. I think if you go to my vlog, which was not very good, but if you go back to my first vlog, you can see I filmed right after I was actually still crying on camera. It is about a woman in college who makes friends with these two boys, and she ends up dating one, and they end up being terrible for each other. And she ends up figuring out that she's in love with the other one, and how they had so many near misses in their lives that they couldn't reconcile by the time the ending of the book came. So I don't want to say more than that because it gives it away. But it was a really beautiful book, and I liked the writing style a lot. It was very quick and easy to get through. And it was heartbreaking, terribly heartbreaking. Let's see. Books that made me happy. I'm going to probably say Bunny. That book was just a delight to read from the beginning to the end. I gave it 5 stars. I think I gave it, like, in my Zodiac brackets, I gave it the sign that I read it in. I gave it to that. It was just fun. It was weird. It was like fever dreamy and crazy, but really had a good time reading it. So that book made me happy. Most beautiful book I've read is East of Eden. I think I said enough about it in the beginning, but that was the most beautiful book I read. What needs to be finished? I need to finish Lonesome Dove. I have been reading it for 3 years at this point, and I'm only halfway through. I pick it up and I go through big bursts of going through tons of chapters at a time, and then I put it down and I just forget it's there. I don't forget it's there. It's sitting right in front of me on my bookshelf, but um, it's just has to get finished. My favorite horror. Let's see. I really want to say my favorite horror book that I read this year was The Exorcist. That really surprised me in a great way. Like I said before, I love any type of horror that has a religious bent, and the moral fight that the priest had with himself was so very poignant and very interesting to read through. His dichotomy of loving the Lord and his life as a priest and being devoted and totally believing, and then his loss of faith. Why would God let these things happen to my mother, to this little girl? Why would a loving God ever do these things? And do I really stand up for a God that would allow this to happen? So I found that one, I found it beautiful. Like, yeah, it wasn't really, it was a little scary. I'm still looking for the scariest book alive, but it was more about the people again than it was about the demon. My favorite lit fic this year. Oh, Shadow of the Wind. That was a silly forget. So friends, I finished the rest of my video with my microphone muted. So I have to do this all over again. We were talking about my favorite lit fic, which is Shadow of the Wind. And I was saying originally that it was a story about a boy who receives a book when he's young, and he reads this book and is so enamored by the story and so enamored by the author that he decides to hunt him down and learn about his life. And in the course of doing so, his life begins to mirror the tragedies of the author's life. So it was a wonderful, wonderful read. I loved the dual timeline. I loved the characters. You really get to ache with them and live with them, and it is such a wonderful book. My favorite nonfiction, I think I only read one this year that counts as total nonfiction, and that's Yours Cruelly, Elvira. It was the story of Cassandra Peterson and how she grew up, and wow, she was a major starfucker. I thought that was so interesting. She had been with so many famous people, and she also just lived her life to the absolute fullest, and it was a fun read. So that brings us to the last question, which is final reflections. I have read some really great books this year. I have read books that have profoundly affected me, books that have annoyed me, books that have made me angry. But every adventure was amazing in some way. I learned something from every book I have read so far. I think I'm up to 79 right now, as of July 9th. So I can't wait to see what new adventures I'm going to get to go on for the rest of the year. And that, my friends, is it. Have a great day.